Let me get everybody's mics on. All right, we're ready whenever you are, Mr. Lyons.
Call the order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glennon.
Here.
Mrs. Orthwine. Mr. Doherty.
Here.
Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here.
Also noted attending and present are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Manager Trey Nazaro, and myself.
Any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, arrangements of agenda? No, sir. Thank you. Next meeting dates are listed there. If you're not able to attend, would you alert Renee, please? Any declaration of ex parte communication? No. Anyone speaking today, could you administer the oath, please?
Ian, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So we're going to be addressing the first application, 2522, submitted by Brian Dudley, owner of the property located at 835 Canary Walk. Are you his representative?
I'm Dr. Robert Dudley, I'm his brother.
Oh,
I need you
okay.
to go to the podium.
Thank you for coming.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me. By way of introduction, I'm Dr. Robert Dudley. Brian Dudley is my brother who submitted the application. I've lived in Paso Soy for more than 20 years. I'm intimately familiar with the design manual. I previously have built a house in Paso Soy about 15 years ago. And so our goal here in this request is to comply with the spirit of the manual, to beautify the neighborhood, and to obviously get a new roof that needs to be put on this house. I spoke with Trey earlier this morning, and I think you may be familiar with some of the issues that have come up, and that house currently has a white roof on it. We wanted to stay in keeping with that aesthetic as much as possible. The white through and through tiles are no longer available. They don't manufacture them anymore. The design manual was written more than 25 years ago, and I know there's some discussion about possibly updating that code. We picked a tile that would be as close as possible to white. It's a gray through and through tile, which complies with the design manual. And so our request today is to get an approval for that tile, which actually has been approved previously on another 2 houses in the neighborhood. What's a beautiful tile. It complies with the design manual. It's a great through and through tile, whereas the other tile is just unfortunately not available to use anymore.
Do you have those samples down here?
There are some samples down here. Yeah.
So this is something that we're going to be discussing later on in the agenda,
Right.
so everyone's kind of familiar with it. This is the tile that is currently
That's
not available,
through and
which is
through.
what we've always used.
Yep.
This is a sample of a coated tile that is white, and then we have 2 sample tiles from the same run of the mottled white blend, which shows there is some color discrepancy between the 2, whereas that is sort of a whiter, and then this is sort of a
That's right.
grayer.
So they could be laid next to one
That's
another?
correct, yes.
And you said one is modeled.
These 2 are from the same run, so it's called mottled white blend. And these are both the exact same mottled white blend of that tile type. So it will be these tiles. There's a range that will be.
Oh, they just haphazardly, there's all, however they come out, they put
Correct.
it down. Okay,
So I looked up models. Do you know what models is?
please help me.
That's one thing I don't want to call from my English class. It's patches of color, so it's not one consistent color. And so that's what it is. So you can see the
I can see it is.
clear
Yeah.
distinction. And when you see it on the roof, I did take the opportunity.
I did too, yeah.
And you can see that it is somewhat patch-like. We had a house that was under construction during COVID, and on the ocean, and they weren't able to get this product.
Right.
So we approved something that was available, and I've seen the house, and as the manager town manager knows, I don't care for it at all. It's too patchy. It's not consistent. It looks like a checkerboard.
Is that house on the ocean?
You wouldn't,
It's at the end of Golf View.
Oh,
That's the one.
the big
Right.
home, yeah, the developer home. So, and this is the coated, I can see the coating, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. This is just a peak, but that's the through and through. That's what we used to always recommend, okay. Now,
So we're here because staff doesn't have the power to over.
That's right. So as the code reads, the flat white through and through is the only thing we can approve on the staff level uncoated, but it does not exist. So there's really no way for this applicant to get an approval at the staff level, which we thought was absolutely unfair. We did waive the application fee, so they're here today just because of this issue with the availability of the white through and through uncoated.
so where we're transitioning, we're gonna have a discussion later, is to an alternative that would possibly this one, which will be through and through, it'll be one consistent color. So really the decision I think we have to make right now is do we want to stick with the definition we have today, which is through and through white, but it's not flat. This is more glossy, or go with a variation tile.
I appreciate I think that is a good discussion to have. And I know the future commission meeting is going to be discussing possibly changing the design manual for that. Today, I think really we just need a decision on, can we be approved for the request or not? Our builder has told us that if we make a change request, he's going to charge us $10,000. We've already signed the contract with the understanding that this had previously been approved on our other house in the neighborhood and another house in the neighborhood that was a brand new house that was built. The roofs look beautiful. And I agree that the design manual needs to be looked at and updated. But really we just need to make the decision today on, the request that was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it for if just a consistent white roof, if we don't approve this kind of new gloss tile, does that mean that essentially there's not available white roofing materials in order to do?
You're correct. Yeah, there's
right.
There's not anything that meets the requirements
So
of the
this
design
is
manual.
essentially,
Yeah.
maybe said another way, like
What
this
the
is the
ARPB
only way to keep the white
Yeah.
roof
Right.
optionality or the
Yeah.
white roof kind of consistency in town.
Are you willing to take the white coated roof, or you don't want to consider white at all?
Well, that's the problem, is it will cost us $10,000 to
Change order.
change, to do the
Is it
change
because
order.
the tile's more expensive, or is he just being ornery? You don't know.
It was in the contract that if we change, the tile change after we sign the contract.
although that is, something you can maybe discuss with them. I don't know if you have already, but
Well, I mean, that would probably require legal expenses and stuff if he doesn't just agree to it. I mean, he's already told us that. He goes, yeah, we'll change
Okay.
it for $10,000. So
can I have clarification? What was the tiles put on 2730 and 2750?
So
I
those,
looked at both of those.
right. So
I-
the homes, the two tiles that you see in front of you are on those two homes, and they were both done very recently. So one is,
So they
I'm
were
sorry, let me pull
modeled, they were
let
modeled.
me, I'm sorry, let me pull the memo
yeah,
here.
those are the exact tiles that are.
2750.
So
as you mentioned,
2730
30, yeah.
is the modeled white blend, which is what they're seeking approval for today. So
And
that,
2750 was the coated?
That
Okay.
one, that house looked directly west.
yeah, and 2750 was
Right.
coated. That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you can see, if you drive by, you can see a clear distinction. It's kind of patchy. Whereas this is just one.
I believe the house at 945 Indigo Point also has that exact tile that we're requesting, which is a 945 Indigo Point.
It's a different architectural style, sir,
It is, but it's the same exact same tile that's on that roof.
but it's a different architectural style,
Okay,
so it's
correct,
allowed.
So only one of them has that muddled and the other one has this. paint.
Right.
Okay.
From the memo, yes.
From
The
the-
on Cardinal Circle.
Yeah, because I looked at both of them. Okay. I didn't have the visceral reaction, Paul, that you did, although I could picture it on that house on the ocean. I definitely noticed it there. But I drove the 2730 50 houses twice on 2 different days. And it didn't strike me terribly as, oh, this is horrendous or whatever. But I will say also, I do fear that these things cause issues with mold. Having had to replace a home that was a painted tile, and then we went to this, and these are much better. For some reason, the mold sticks to this, and
So it's an interesting discussion.
I
Because
could, oh,
I spoke to Roof Tech.
yeah, know them, yeah. Like,
And they said to me that these are more resistant to mold.
could be new technology. Mine was 20 years ago.
And that was one of the advantages, because if people fail to maintain it.
Right.
It'll take longer for
It
them.
would make some sense because the mold can get inside this is, but but
And
I
then this is,
remember.
and this is coated, so it tends to wick off, I would assume.
Yes, that would make sense. What happened to me, and I heard with the painting, you would up there, you'd have your guy high pressure wash them, and he would chip off parts of the paint, and then the paint and the exposed we get, it was a real mess. That's how it used to be.
Yeah, so
some
I
years
asked
ago.
that same question.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I was afraid that people get on the roof and then
high pressure.
you'd have patches of no paint.
Yeah,
And he said that does not happen.
gotcha. That's well,
New technology.
it's
Yeah.
new technology.
We went
That
from
makes sense.
this to that probably 25 years ago because this was inferior at that
Yes,
time. And we went to the through and through.
right.
But I think they've stopped the one on your hand because this technology now is better than
Gotcha.
that one.
That would make some sense.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Why can't you do a whole house with that lighter color?
He has to say, why does it?
Why does it have to be muddled with two?
Well, that's what.
That's how it
the
comes from the
product.
manufacturer.
You
that's
can't
the clo-
just say we just want
It's actually
a
called,
order of
it's
tile.
actually called white mottled, so it's the closest possible to white. And the builder just
I don't-
says that the white is, gone out of style, and so that's why they don't make that a white
But
roof
keep in
anymore.
mind that there's a lot of different products when you go and Google cement and roof tiles. And one of them is referred to as model, and it's intended not
It's
to
a
be.
style, yeah.
It's not, so the purpose is not to be one consistent color.
Right, I got you. Yeah, and,
So that's what we're trying to,
okay.
do we go
Right.
with inconsistent tiles or do we go with one consistent white tile?
And, right.
We have a rendering. Is there any way to bring up the picture of the rendering?
I think
They
we
have,
it in our packet.
yeah, it's in
Okay.
the,
Renderings, they're not, they're kind of.
Gotcha.
like
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So, okay, wow.
I mean, the two other houses that have this exact roof, I think they're beautiful. No neighbors have, had any
Well, one
issues
house
with-
has the model that I drove by. One is this new product, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The one that she's talking about has a different architectural style, but it's exact same tile, exact same model white tile roof.
So you said you signed the contract. Had you spoken to the town when we said the model was okay?
Well, we got approval, yes, on the previous house that was done. It was
So-
approved. Yes, yes.
But for this one,
No, for the one we're requesting today was
So
approved
the-
and on the house.
Mr. Dr. Dudley and his brother own multiple properties in Place House LA. So one of their other properties is 2730 Cardinal Circle, which is a 5-star historically Gulfstream Bermuda per our red book that we did from architectural design many years ago. Staff had approved that. I did not look at it. I don't know how that was approved, but it was approved for the modeled white blend. So they were just relying on that previous approval. And when the tile came through and I saw it, I flagged it as inconsistent because the architectural style requires a flat white. And then
so just to be, I'm going to be putting this. On this location, did you approve that model? The town approved it?
the town did approve at the staff level 2730 Cardinal Circle for the modeled white blend, yes.
No, but for this house, it hasn't been previously approved.
Correct. For this house, there has
Yeah,
been no
that's my
approval.
question. Thank you.
I was just
So,
bringing-
this house, yes, this house, no. Okay.
Yeah, I was just bringing it up because
Yeah.
he asked why did we move forward without prior
And-
getting the approval for this one is because it was approved previously on the other.
And you
house.
made the assumption, let's do it again. You put
Right,
it
it
in
was
the
exa-
contract and the guy
yes.
said, no, if you go to that other thing, it's 10 grand.
Exactly.
That
Yes.
approval, the 2730 was during COVID, is that right? Where, like, with inventory issues or
No, I think it was put on maybe about a year
a
or
year
so
ago?
ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not, okay.
To be honest, we have no record of who approved it. So
I'm sorry, you don't have a record?
We have when someone submits a building permit, it doesn't always result in a pre-application meeting or a zoning review. So we have in the past requested tile samples, and that is just sort of looked at, and that, that's the way Rita Taylor did it. You bring in a roof tile, she says, okay, great, and it goes through permitting. So we now have developed, an application for a level 1 every time we get a roof tile, and we make sure that we review it and document it to make sure that it's consistent. But there's a lot of things that, when you're building a house that, interior changes, things like that, we do not see from a staff level. It's just only our building department.
So,
What are they doing on Blue Water Cove, or is this on any of the homes in Blue Water?
I don't believe we have any Blue Water Cove homes that are Gulfstream Bermuda style architecture.
Okay, that's the restriction that we're dealing.
Yeah.
So
There
I
are,
think
there
we've
are
also only maybe seen one tile when we've approved roofs. And, actually, if I redid my home, I would probably want to do this because this is a pain in the neck to take care of, the white is. But I don't remember ever seeing the contrast here. That's what caught us by surprise, and you too, Paul, right?
yeah, well, I mean,
I drove through Place Off Soleil and saw the roof, and I'm with Bob. I'm not disagreeing with you because I didn't see your roof, but I thought it looked good,
I actually did too. But I do notice that home on the ocean, because that's right across from my house, it has all splotchy, but I wasn't offended by the roofs at 2530 and 2550. I was like, I had a hard time almost distinguishing which was
Right.
which.
So
I mean, it's
I think that, it's perspective. In my view, and this isn't necessarily an argument, this white one, but it clearly is not a consistent color. I mean, I don't, there's no, if you went back this morning, I'm sure you would say to yourself, yeah, that's probably true. Would you agree with that? It's not a consistent color?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is not.
And again, it's defined as not being consistent. So back to the application. We're going to have a further discussion as relates to future homes because of the absence of that original tile. But I can understand what your thought process was. And I think we have to take that into consideration. And as you say, it's, if you were just driving by and you weren't really studying it, it's okay. It's not terrible. And I apologize for those terms.
Right.
But what I'm trying to find is the right balance here, because I could see why you did what you did. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And you're representing that you can't get rid of the molted and you're stuck with it. Or is that what you're saying?
well, we are committed to using it, but we also at the same time think that it's a beautiful roof. There's several other houses that have the exact same tile in the neighborhood, multiple other houses that have gray roofs in the neighborhood that all look beautiful. And so again, going back to the original spirit of the design manuals to make the neighborhood look beautiful, and that's what we'd like to continue doing. And if the commission does want to change the code in the future to make it easier for the future people that need to put roofs on, I'm all in favor of that. Right now, I think we just need the decision today is, can we move forward with this? The roof's leaking. We really want to get this fixed and updated as quickly as possible.
So my view, I'll give you my bottom line is I'm okay with going forward based on the fact that you made a decision to commit to this. But I want to be clear that I'm not in favor of it as a ongoing practice. And we're going to talk about it, but I think for this, it just the way it kind of evolved. And I don't think we should penalize it.
I appreciate that.
I agree.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve a level 3 architectural site plan to prevent replacing of the white roof on a Gulfstream Bermuda style home with a flat mottled white blend, smooth uncoated title.
Mr. Glennon,
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwein,
Yes.
Mr. Dougherty,
Yes,
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Lyons.
Yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
And I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Thank you.
So don't come back with any more houses
Yeah.
like this.
And who is that roof contractor? We put him on the blacklist.
Thank you.
All right.
So, Trey, wait, have we,
Get some roof
while we're on,
closed.
have we set a precedent here that could come back?
No, because we're gonna change the code and I think
Okay.
Mr. Lyons
There
put
you
it on
go.
the record.
Okay.
Specific situation.
Good.
And I did talk to several roofing companies to find out if that was true, that it's not.
Yeah.
No longer made, and it isn't. The only thing they have is what's left in stock
Stock.
of what was made, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
use it to repair roofs now. And the modeled, there is no way for them to, it just comes out of the batch that way.
It comes out of a,
Yeah, because I said it is noticeably
Algorithm.
different. It's the same exact, name modeled white, and they both look gray and
it's
white.
so weird.
yeah. And he said there's no way for it, it's just the way it comes out of the batch.
So the applicant's brother actually requested from the contractor the lightest color that
Yeah.
they had, so we could see that contrast. So this is sort of the starkest
Okay.
difference that you'll see. It is not going to be completely like a checkerboard. But you can definitely tell when you're driving by that house at Cardinal Circle that there is a lot of differentiation with the different tiles. It's not as bad as I had thought when I went over there and looked at it. I don't know if it's maybe because it's a white and gray versus maybe what we saw at on A1A with like a colored. I think wasn't it what color was the roof that we were talking about, the Gulf View and A1A? Yeah.
I don't know,
It's
but that's, it
it
is,
was supposed to be white.
No.
no,
Okay,
it's
well,
real checkerboard, yeah.
okay. So
So
Well, in
The-
defense of all of us, I don't think we've ever seen the two tiles next to each other. The architects, they brought in tiles, but it's a tile.
Yeah.
And so I think we would have discussed it soon had we seen it. also.
I
Uh,
wholeheartedly agree with that.
So Trey, I think we should go with it, items by staff, and we might as well, and the next one is the availability of required flat, blah, blah, blah.
All right, thank you, Chairman Lyons. So I'll just draw your attention to the memo dated November 14th. So we just discussed this issue to some length. The applicable section of the code is 7238, which requires quote, flat, white, through and through, smooth, uncoated tiles. Rita was a big, a staunch reviewer of the tiles and whether they were coated or uncoated, and she would reject without any discussion anything that had any coating on it. So we are looking at that.
Would it say that again? She didn't like,
Anything that was coated.
Right. yeah.
So,
The
and
output
that's
is-
under the code. So I think that maybe we're looking at some manufacturing processes that may make the coating more desirable. I won't speak as an expert on that, but just based on the conversation that we just had regarding the application before us, maybe that is the case. Either way, it is now available and we are seeing it on a number of homes and other applications. We just had a application for a new roof on County Road. They are using the coated tile. It is not prohibited elsewhere in the code. The specific coated tile
Is it up on the house already?
it is not. There was an approval on County Road on the Little Club Golf Course side, one
Oh, yeah,
of
sure,
those
sure.
houses. The one where they were removing a lot of the trees on the side. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
it's that home. They've done a lot of remodeling. So they're putting a new roof on, and that was one of the tiles that came through. Since we were just discussing this, Dina flagged that and said, "Is this something that's okay?" I looked at the architectural style of the home. It's not a Gulfstream Bermuda. it is a white tile. It is coded, but that's what they prefer. There's no reason for us to deny it on the code, so we were approved on the
So it's
staff
the one that
level.
was right here that we were.
Yes,
Great, good.
the
I'd
white
like to see
coated,
it when it
right.
was up, too.
They're putting that on the St. Andrews tennis shed that they're building. They also came in with that for approval. And then, of course, the house that we have in the memo on Cardinal Circle, 2750. Now, I'll say that during the process of working with Mr. Dudley and Dr. Dudley, I did tell them, frankly, that we had a house on County Road that I reviewed a tile and it was coded, and because it's not a Gulfstream Bermuda, it's approved. So it is going on other places. And so there was a lot of frustration regarding this specific provision of the code and the inability to get approval on the staff level. So what we'd want to do is to adjust the code to allow staff level approval for what the ARPB and commission deems adequate for our level of review, keeping in mind the historical Gulfstream Bermuda houses do have white roofs. So when I went and researched some of the roofs that had been approved when I was working with the Dudleys, one of the things that I did was had Dina pull recent Gulfstream Bermuda style homes that had roofs, and 2750 Cardinal Circle with the white through and through was a white roof. So I drove by, I told Mr. Dudley, Dr. Dudley's brother, that had been approved recently. So obviously the tile is available, and he's a member of the community over there. So he actually spoke to the neighbor, and the neighbor said, actually, the town approved a coated tile, and that's what I put on. So when I drove by, I could not really tell the difference. I mean, I didn't walk right up to the door, but from the street view, it has a very nice white aesthetic that's in keeping with the Gulfstream Bermuda requirements. And I don't know if it's shiny or there's something else that the board feels makes it maybe inappropriate that we should go to something else. But I think that staff would probably prefer, given all the discussion that we've had, allowing a coated tile that is white through and through to keep with that Gulfstream Bermuda style aesthetic and allow this to be approved. I think that when you look at a darker roof on a Gulfstream Bermuda, it does detract a little bit from that aesthetic that we're looking for, but I certainly defer to what the board's thoughts are on that matter. And we can continue to allow approval through the level 3 review process for anything that is not white. So with that, I put it out for discussion.
And let me make one observation. You've done some research to confirm that there was no availability of anything like flat through and through, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we've got to change it to that anyway. It's a question of, do we say after through the smooth uncoated tile, we do smooth coated tiles? If we decide to stick with the white, it says flat, it says now the required flat white through and through smooth uncoated tile. Right? But so there's no such thing anymore, we're saying, right? So we need to, at a minimum, change that. But do we want to change it to coated? It has a.
We could just remove.
Well, I would agree with that. I don't want to change it to coated, but I think the question is, do we want to go with a malted white or gray? Are those the 3 options?
At this point, it's been recommended that the ARPB review it from the commission. So it's whatever,
It's a practical matter. It really comes down to.
Sure, right.
I guess you could throw brown. Now I've looked at Blue Water Cove, and they do have the first house to the right on. I don't know whether it's a Bermuda style, but it has the old through and through white, and then the rest are brown or gray. And on the 1-story houses, and Bermuda, most of Bermuda tend to be 1-story. It looks heavy on it, sort of. I don't know. I mean, I like the impression you go down Gulfstream or Polo and you see all white. I mean, you're not studying it. Is that through and through, or? But the general impression, and I think it's what we're trying to get, is the impression. Do we want a white, or do we? And if it's white, it's going to be coated. It's going to be, I'd rather have a flat, non-glossy, frankly, but that's not available. So, or do we go with the gray or?
We could go with both. We could go with the white coated and the gray. Do you think we're just gonna have one?
Well, I think.
There's more than one now. It allows for both now, doesn't it?
So it allows for gray slate tile on homes that are predominantly Georgian or British colonial with Bermuda influences. Right,
But
so,
not a Gulf Stream.
but it specifically says that that can be approved at the discretion of the ARPB and Town Commission through the level 3 review process. I may want to adjust that to level 2. So when someone is replacing the roof, they don't have to go all the way to the Town Commission. I feel like the ARPB is capable of handling a roof tile color.
I think that's a good suggestion, Tom. Why not have, this is our, I don't know what we like the preferred anymore, but this is our preferred, but we would have the discretion to allow for a gray.
Mhm.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, and I think since it's white, we almost have to allow the coated white. We have to use that word.
Well, yeah, that's,
instead of coated.
that's the only
I
real
still think
option.
we prefer that. When it first goes on, it's a little shiny.
Yeah.
It is. But I think it tones itself down. Look at the sun here, beats the hell out of anything.
And it must be new technology, because the old days it's painted, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
And it peels
Chip,
off, like you said. So maybe we would express our preference to say white painted through and through
Coated.
coated, and give the ARPB or staff,
No
maybe
ARP.
ARPB permission to, approve gray through and through. So
But not muddled.
But not, well, yeah, I don't know what that muddled word comes from
Muddled
either.
or whatever.
Is there anything gray, Renee, when you called, is there anything gray that doesn't have that
Modeling.
model?
We didn't check on that, we just checked on
Mhm.
model because it was called white model.
Model, yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, you can get a gray tile.
Right,
Absolutely.
gray all the way, the whole house,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it would be a through and through. You can get that.
Okay.
Because Blue Cove has gray
Yeah,
roofs.
exactly. I would stick with the gray. The brown it doesn't really
No,
compliment.
that's not gonna do it.
So currently it's prohibited to have tiles other than white, flat, untextured, or gray slate. So those are the two that are, anything else under the code for Gulf Stream Bermuda is prohibited. So that's really we could expand that, but that's based on the architectural design and the design manual, the two that are essentially required. The question is whether or not, what review we would do for gray tiles.
And I think Mr. Smith recommended, or you suggested, and I think we're in favor of, we would have the discretion if somebody wanted that. And we would vote on it. Of the ARPB.
The ARPB would have the discretion. It would only, and the most we would allow would be gray, but we would have the discretion over
Right.
gray.
Right.
Can you get something like that?
Yeah, so I mean,
Mr. Attorney.
I've already, here's my red line of the code that I'm tracking right now. So I'm going to remove uncoated, so it'll be required flat white through and through smooth tile. So it won't say coated or uncoated, it will just remove that reference to coated. So if there is in the future, right. And then I'm removing and Town Commission, and we'll do a level 2 review process. But it will still require making a determination that such alternatives are appropriate for the neighborhood. I guess the question is, do we allow a model? Do we require, right now it's flat gray through and through uncoated tile or tiles of similar slate-like color. So for me, that's appropriate. The model that we have, it was appropriate because it's a tile of similar slate-like color. It's just not that it's not consistent though, is the thing. So I don't know if we want to think about that, or if we're okay with a modeled, or we want it consistent, right? Strictly gray or white.
Yeah, I mean, you have too many variations.
Your blazer is modeled.
I like
Yeah,
I like the white and gray and not use the model.
It's modeled.
if we found that there's
Well,
no
we have a
such
term
thing,
for
should-
you too, but later.
You know, should we make sure that there is a gray, just a pure gray through and through? That's, I don't really prefer the model if we could avoid it.
Is that what the code
Okay.
calls for now? What does the code call for on gray?
It just says gray slate tile may be permitted on homes that are predominantly these specific styles. And then it says flat gray through and through, uncoated tile. And then it says, or tiles of similar slate-like color. So because it adds that sort of caveat, similar slate-like color, it does not say that it needs to be gray through and through, right? Because those tiles are not gray through and through. They're inconsistent. There's a color variation.
If somebody wants the alternative, we'll look
They
at it and
can-
see if we like it.
Okay, sure.
So that language, so we're saying it could be gray through and through or a similar slate-like color.
And by looking
That
online,
decision would.
it does look like there is a gray flat through and through,
Okay,
but
good, okay.
it also told me there was a white through and through. When I ordered it, they said, oh, this is discontinued. But just on first look, it does look
Okay.
like there is a flat gray through and through.
So that language is okay. Paul, Katie, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
In other words, it would come to us if it was other than white. And we could either argue that we want to limit it to gray, or we could expand it to gray model, or as they describe it here, a similar slate-like color may be permitted. You want to leave it in there?
Well, just to be clear, we prefer white.
Yep.
They can make their argument for either of those two grays, but we still may want to decide to keep it at white.
That's true. Yeah, we
Yeah,
could
okay.
reject the gray or
Yeah.
models or whatever.
But then we're gonna allow two variations of the gray. And then we decide which one we like, if we like either of them in place of the white.
That's fine. We don't want to veer into any other, slate-like color. Some slates look green almost, or
You know,
dark gray or whatever. I mean,
Trey,
can I
you know,
ask a stupid question? Do you have people who come in and argue about the style of their home?
All the time.
oh, yeah.
Yes.
You
Sure.
just had one.
So like, you could sit like you get, I don't know, maybe like people will say, well, this is really a Georgian with Bermudian influence as opposed to like a Bermudian home. So I don't know whether that influences our thinking on that. I mean, I agree with Tom. Like, I think we need I'm fine with just changing the white, to change it to update what's currently available and then leave essentially everything else as is.
Yeah, we'll take it off of, staff can do white, and if it goes beyond that, then it just has to,
come down.
because then we'd have to see what the house looks like and try to determine, but there's so many houses of these blends in town. We just had a big argument over what one was.
Blended architecture.
Blended
Yes.
architecture.
Right.
But I'm even okay with the way it's described here. Flat gray through and through uncoated, or tiles of similar slate-like color may be permitted at the discretion of the ARPB. Is that okay, or is that too broad? It's okay, isn't it?
Does that get rid of the modeling? Because I don't
Yes.
want to get rid of that. Yeah, okay, good.
Well,
Then I'm for it.
we could just leave it then at flat gray through and through and not.
Yeah, well, so I'm thinking about administering the code.
Yeah.
And back to Michael's comment, every time you give the homeowner, and I don't want to be too restrictive either, but you give them another platform to argue a point. Well, this is what I want, and it would be simpler to just say, stick with the through and through gray tile as an alternative to the through and through white coated tile. I think keeping it simple is a better way of going. Why did we have the alternative of the gray? Do you know? What do you think? I mean, you administer the code. Would it make it easier or worse? I mean, what's your thought?
So in speaking with the homeowner and having conversations at length with them regarding the exact language that's within the code, I told them that I understand that the second part of what is required and gray slate tile may be permitted on homes that are predominantly these architectural styles. I said, you have to read that with the entire paragraph together. So I did not view that staff could make a decision about the architectural style of the home and regarding the gray slate tile, and that you had to read the second sentence that required level 3 review, regardless of the architectural style. So I read flat white through and through is required, staff level, second part of that sentence, and gray slate tile. So I would maybe want to clean that up and push that into the lower paragraph, including the staff, the ARPB's review, just so it's clear for the applicant, so they understand you are required to have a flat white through and through. You have an alternative to have a gray if your home is Georgian or British colonial with Bermuda influences, subject to ARPB review.
Okay, so you give the discretion to the ARPB. And on the gray, there's two options. It gives the homeowner a little more flexibility, and we can decide whether we like it or not. So, I think it's kind of a win-win. You don't have to deal with it. We'll deal with it if somebody wants. We have to deal with it if they want gray anyway. So might as well look at another alternative. We might like it. Who knows?
And you are going to stop it at this level, right? Because as it is, Mr. Dudley's got to now go to the commission.
He does?
Mhm. Yeah, because it was a level 3 per the code.
Oh, wow.
The specific language in the code says level 3 approval by ARPB and commission. So I believe that the ARPB is capable of reviewing, it's a roof tile.
This is a good
Right.
example of why that would be a good case, yes.
Yeah, I
We're in
crossed
agreement.
through that. I changed it to
Well,
level 2.
Why is white coded and gray uncoded? Interesting. I just thought, none of us know the answer, but why is it?
Well, maybe as roof tech reference, it's easier to maintain the roof.
Do they make a gray coated?
I don't know.
I doubted it.
See, with gray, it's dark already, so,
Yeah.
The coating makes it too dark?
well, no, but the white, because that's porous, and it seems to collect more of the mold, which, is in contrast to the white, so you can see it's getting dirty. I mean, sometimes I look at a white roof and I can't figure out whether it was
White or gray?
gray.
Yeah, no, there's
Because
a
it's gotten
feeling.
so dirty.
Yeah, yes.
So there's some advantage, because, the reality is, that's a whole nother subject about enforcing the code and maintaining the roof.
So Trey, we can change this language to say it's a level 2 review.
I recommend.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So
we'll recommend that to yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll make these changes for the town commission and propose, that
Would
we
we always have the right as an ARPB, if we're really having a tough time with the gray or whatever, we can always kick it upstairs?
correct, yes.
Okay, well then, yeah, that's fine. Let's leave it at 2 and then we can.
I like that. Take it upstairs. Trey, would you mind proposing or giving us the language for, or who's gonna, we need a resolution.
You're talking about for the item that we're talking about right now?
Yes.
Okay, so it will be an ordinance that's probably done on first reading before the commission in the December meeting. We will be removing uncoated tile. We will be adjusting the architectural style to be included in the ARPB's review for gray tile. And we'll be adjusting the level of review from level 3 to the town commission to level 2 to the ARPB. So staff will be able to approve a flat white through and through smooth tile. And then flat gray through and through uncoated tile or tiles of similar slate-like color may be permitted at the discretion of the ARPB through the level 2 review process, subject to the ARPB making a determination that such alternatives are appropriate for the neighborhood and that the home's architectural style is predominantly Georgian or British colonial with Bermuda influences.
Sounds right to me.
Who's gonna make a resolution?
Okay, you go ahead.
So I'll take your direction and
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
bring that to the commission at our next meeting.
okay.
So we need to vote on that?
We can. I think it was
We
just a
don't need
discussion.
to.
We don't need to because it's
Okay,
not
fine.
a resolution or anything like that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Trey.
I mean, is that the consensus of the
Could you type
ARPB
it
that,
up and send it to
Yeah.
us? Or is that
I'm-
not allowed?
I mean, we can, but we wouldn't want to do a
Voice
vote
vote.
out
Yeah,
of,
okay, fine.
yeah.
Okay, so the last agenda item is the section 7073 of the town code as it relates to two-story side setbacks. In your package, well, actually, I guess you received an email with a couple of documents that I put together. One was sent to the town commission regarding the Ellis home. And my take on that particular home. So you have that perspective from me. And then I try to create a context in which we're going to be looking at this second story setback. So I think you can see that what we need to address is what do we want as, if any, setback on the second floor from the first floor, or definitely how much setback do we want for the second floor from the property line? Because I think that's really probably, it's a two-dimensional issue, in my opinion. I think it would be useful first to go back to in 2015, the commission charged an ad hoc committee of the ARPB to look at this issue. And Marty Miner from Urban Design, as well as architects, were part of the process of that committee examining the issue of side setbacks. Marty Miner, after looking at lots of different options, a recommendation was made. Are you able to bring up that audio?
Yes, sir. Would you like to play?
Yeah, so this is going to be Marty Miner speaking to the commission in January of 2016, basically summarizing recommendation.
Just for some context, that as Mr. Lyons mentioned, there was an ad hoc committee that studied this issue, and then there was a presentation of an ordinance. So this was, I think, first reading. It's pretty interesting. You have a lot of people who have been around town for many years, Mr. Graziano, Patsy Randolph, Bill Boardman, everyone's in the audience. So Marty Miner is speaking on the three issues that were adopted. One was the second floor percentage of FAR that was reduced from 0.7 to 0.5 for north-south core and Place au Soleil. There was discussion about the front facade, not front facade necessarily, but ones facing the street, and then the specific second floor side setback that we were discussing now. So I'll go ahead and play that audio.
Setbacks. To reference second story setback change presented on.
Mr. Meyer, you've worked on it. Yes, I've worked with the ad hoc committee on this issue, and it largely deals with, first of all, Marty Miner for Urban Design QA Studios for the record, and Happy New Year. Pleasure to be with you. Worked with the ad hoc committee. The concern largely dealt with small to medium-sized lots and the impacts that a larger second floor could have to your neighbors. We looked at with the committee various different options, and the ordinance before you is the result of all those discussions that we've had during the fall. It applies to 3 districts which have traditionally the smaller lots. One of the first changes is the second floor size area is reduced from 70% of the first floor area to 50%. Please note, with all these changes, the overall area of the house and the limitations set by the FAR does not change. You know, these just will change the shape of the homes from the boxes, but not the total area of the homes. It's not taking away any area from someone's property rights. So that goes from 70 to 50, so you'll have a smaller area on the second floor. In addition, with your handout, something we worked through with the committee, that the second floor is set back 15% of the width of the house. And if you, for example, a 100-foot wide lot, you can build a 70-foot wide house and still meet all the setbacks that's currently in our code. This would require that second floor setback to be 15%, and in this example, a little over 10 feet from the outside walls to help bring that in. And so you don't necessarily have a 20-foot wall next 15 feet from adjacent properties. And the last portion of this is if you are adding a second floor or you're building a house with a second floor, along that property line, we've asked that the trees be 2 feet higher at planting. Right now, the code requires it at 10 feet.
Okay, so that video ends and then they started a new video, so.
Planting, this moves up to 12 feet. That's a standard size on a lot of larger developments that they put in for street trees and stuff. So there is quite a bit of availability in 12-foot high trees. And those are the three aspects of this proposed ordinance.
And the purpose of this will serve to reduce the concern that many residents have had over neighbors to these larger second-story homes, particularly those that have been changed in the core and Plaza Select, where you have smaller, perhaps smaller lots. But the homes next door do not have those looming, overwhelmingly sized second stories on them, which you see in a number of other communities, and which fear what you would see here. Seems like a very reasonable approach to address this. My only question, is there any concern with the wedding cake or type of?
That was quite a bit of discussions, and working and talking with some of the local architects, saw that that is a concern, but it can be worked around through architectural design. There is going to be some of that setback that you're going to see from especially the road, and you're going to have a kind of view that they don't necessarily, some architects have no problem with that, others I like to work around it through other architectural features. But no, that was a point of discussion through there, but the benefits of not impacting as much to your neighbor overrode most of the arguments.
Right, having that huge second story flush wall.
Right, that could affect sunlight, you know, your landscaping, and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Questions?
That's it. There's something else. Highlights, there were probably 3 or 4 meetings with architects, Marty Miner, Eula Kent, formerly chair of the ARPB, very diligent. He knew the code better than probably anybody ever knew the code. I mean, he was very thorough, didn't you think?
Mm-hmm.
And he came up with this concept. I had a hard time sort of getting my hands around it. Eventually, I understood it clearly. So I just want to have this as background. As it relates to the interpretation of the code, Marty Miner used the term the outside walls. So when the code was applied on the Ellis, there was some people thought it wasn't clear. There wasn't necessarily the outside walls, but maybe some subsection. And so they ended up approving something that did not follow the full 15% of the width of the house from the outside walls. So that's why we're having this discussion. I want to go address another subject related to this, and that is there's, I think, a concern that pushing the house in then interferes with the front elevation. And essentially, I think that the commission felt that they just didn't want the second story to be seen from the front elevation. So can you bring up this section building form? Can you read that?
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. So drop down a little bit because so basically it's calling for building forms with central massing. So they want it more in the central part of the house. So there's nothing in the code, and some commissioners felt that the spirit of the code was push it to the side, but that's not the case. It's very clear that the form is supposed to be more central. So again, just as background, bear with me. Okay, so then I asked myself the question with this background, what do we think is the appropriate setback? Knowing what was done in the past, we don't have to adhere to that going forward. And what filters should we use? It's my suggestion that we need to respect architectural design of the building according to our code that's in place. But as important that we ensure that we protect the enjoyment of the adjoining residents as provided in Article 5, Site Plan, Section 66144. Trey, would you read that? I'm having a hard time seeing that.
Which one do you want?
Oh, that would be under C. You know which section I mean?
Yes, so it's within 66-144 standards, subsection 12. Proposed site structural and improvement plan shall not adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of on-site or off-site occupants and shall provide the following protection. Subsection C, protection of use and enjoyment. All elements of the proposed plan shall be designed and arranged to have a minimal negative impact on the use and enjoyment of adjoining properties.
So that is a criteria that when we administer the code in general, we're supposed to honor that. So again, I would say the two filters is impact on the neighbor and architectural design. And architectural design is, as you, I'll let you cite Rita, her view on how we looked at homes. And this is, this is history here.
No, sure. Anytime that there was proposed lush landscaping that blocked out, perhaps something that she did not prefer or did not like, she would just remind us all, staff, that landscaping can be removed, it can die. We're really looking at the building itself, without any sort of filter.
So as another sort of observation. Okay, so those are the two filters. There's no perfect solution. It's all give and take, and pros and cons, and all kinds of different options. So I thought that we go back to the Ellis house, you just see
That's it there, isn't it?
what we ended up what the commission approved. And so, yeah, so we could see that. So the upper one was the original. And the final approval is the second one.
So
That's it. And this is the,
This is the north elevation now.
Yeah, correct.
This is-
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
And you see it's a pretty big structure lying to the north. And
So how much did they actually approve the step back?
so there's another slide if you could bring that up. That's with, so I'll show you.
That's
This is with the landscaping, but you can see that the roof line still is pretty high above. If we could drop down further, there's another slide that shows the statistics. We'll go back to that, but let's go to the statistics.
Yeah, just one more.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay. So the way it ended up, I can't see that clearly. Well, yeah, yes. So the first floor is back by 18 feet. So not 15. So that we got the benefit of an extra 3 feet. And then the second floor is set back by 4 feet or thereabout.
What's that percentage? Did that meet the?
No,
No, so
That's, okay,
it should have been around 25 feet.
okay.
It should have been 15 first, 10.
approximately 10 in the second.
Yeah.
Approximately 10 for,
So this
Okay.
was, ended up as 22.
Okay.
And
oh,
so the good news was I thought it was only going to be like 19. But after we looked at the plans again, for whatever reason, they actually had the setback of the house back.
More than 15, right?
You know,
The
and,
whole
and,
floor.
and what drove that is the mechanics, machines. They have to be also 15, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So that, and so they had a.
that's 3 feet for the air conditioning. Yeah.
But that may not always be the case. So this is what we ended up with. And if you could go back up, Trey. Okay, so it's hard to have a discussion about the side without the discussion of placing it in the front, or placing it in the front and not liking pushing it to the side, another way of expressing it. And so when the first ARPB meeting, we cited the code as I understand it, and by the way, I went back to all the ad hoc committee meetings, and it was always intended to be the outside walls, not any subsection. The architect, by the way, argued that the way you applied the code was on that component, was subsection of the house, which is the garage, that you would take the walls of the garage as the width, as opposed to the full outer walls. And that's how we argued that place it over the garage to the back of the house. We turned it down. This was, they never presented this to the commission, but it was an initial attempt to say, okay, if we were to do it on the second floor, that's what it looked like. And that wasn't really a terrible outcome, in my opinion. They subsequently put all kinds of other stuff that, you know, that was rejected by the commission. So what I'm really trying to put in context, if we do have these kind of setbacks and the house has a second story in the front elevation, it can work. And it's worked for years in the town. And it's a sort of a standard way of placing a second story. And you can use, and we require architectural features to sort of dampen any kind of wall-like effect. And the other thing I would observe is that the combination of going from 70% to 50%, and in the overlay, the 30% of the second floor on the first, that component of the second story on a house is going to be much smaller. And with the side setbacks in a 100-foot lot, you could have the second story outer walls being a total of about 50 feet on a 100-foot wall. So it's half of, which is a lot less than some of the buildings we have now. So, and again, I think it's hard to look at the side elevations without thinking of what the implications are if the house is going to have a second story on the front. Okay. Let me see here. So I'm going to open up this for discussion, but I'd like to make a recommendation. And again, it's just so we start someplace. What we did was in that ad hoc committee, the typical property, as Marty Minor cited, was 100 feet wide, which allowed, based on the 15 set, there would be 70 foot wide. And we said, well, at 15%, that meant that the minimum setback would be 25 feet of the second story to the side lot. And Hewlett felt that as property got wider, we could push the second story back even further. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, again, to give a little more flexibility to the homeowner. I think, to me, the most important thing is having a minimum setback from the neighbor on the second story. So, and why am I preoccupied with that? One thing very clearly is light. And I know in my home, we have a new house to our south. And if the Ellis house was built adjacent to my property, any light that I have in my bedroom or our bedroom, it would be gone. I mean, it'd be totally dark. And the other thing, what happens is that vegetation shades out, the grass doesn't grow. And, quite frankly, looking out the window and seeing the sky is kind of nice as opposed to looking at a wall. So, I mean, that's why I'm preoccupied with a minimum amount of distance between second story and the neighbor. So I would recommend it be a minimum of 15 feet because that's sort of a typical lot. I don't think that we necessarily need that extra setback on wider lots. I mean, we can keep it. I'm fine with that too. But and the other thing I would say is that architecturally, we would want for the second story to be set back by a minimum from the first floor of 5 feet. So we don't have the house stacking. So from architectural, forgetting side setback, we've established it 25 feet. But when you build your house, you have to push it back so far from the first floor. And I think the Ellis house kind of accomplishes it, but it's pretty steep. If you look at the Cat Lady house, it's not pushed back that far, and it looks like a wall. And in order to eliminate the wall, architecturally speaking, those are my thoughts. And by the way, the one thing I also like for us to address, and we can do this later, is do we need to look at the rear elevation? Some discussion was had, well, wait a minute, the code that we have on the side setback, this is the architect on the Ellis property argues, well, you're really pushing to the back of the house and there's no setback on the second story from the rear, which we don't have. So we probably should have. I don't think, we'll need to apply it because I don't think anybody's going to build a house in the back. But and then the question on the front, if the reality is that some houses most houses probably will have the second story more central. Trey, remind me, on a 2-story home, the first floor elevation, we have to go back 30 feet, correct? From the street?
It's 40.
Right, under subsection B, there is a requirement. One of the options is to have an additional 5-foot setback. So with your 25-foot front setback, an additional 5 feet, that would be 30 feet from the front property line.
Is that a requirement or that extra 5?
It's one of a number of options that you can do to provide some architectural
Okay,
variation.
okay.
So it's not a hard and fast
So
rule.
we probably don't need to address the front because it's already 25 back, and if we want, we can ask for another 5 for architectural.
Paul, I don't want to interrupt you, but when I read this, the setback on the second floor, it says from each first floor side building elevation. So the setback we're talking about here is only on the sides only. And then what's the setback? There's no, so we could do a 2-story flat wall in the back of the house
Correct.
and 2-story flat in the front, like the picture we had here. You can?
So for the front, there are specific requirements that you either have a minimum of 5 feet, a front porch, a balcony, or an arcade. So there's that architectural variation. So it is not just a front wall or a flat wall.
Maybe 5 feet more.
So,
And in the back, in the rear?
There is nothing for the rear.
so those are my thoughts. So again, just the highlights, the 2 filters, one is protecting the neighborhood, second is architectural integrity. And so the address, the first is really more of an absolute. How far do you think it needs to be back? It's not a science, but the collective views of talking to architects, Marty Minor and the ad hoc committee was, this 10 feet from the first floor, which really converted to 25 feet off the second story. So do we want to consider something different, more or less? And then the other thing, as I said, the architectural, we don't want the house stacked. In other words, the second story's sitting on top of the first story, i.e. some kind of setback of the second to the first.
So I didn't watch the commission meeting, but they thought they thought that they interpreted it differently than we did, or they thought that the reading, it didn't read too clearly. I mean, we're talking about the side on the Reyes side of the house, right? The north side.
Yes.
North side.
So they was 15 feet, which we found out it's more than that actually, and it would have been another 10 point something after that. So it should have been 25 feet. When we met with the architects, they said they couldn't we suggested they move the second floor addition south.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they just couldn't architecturally do it and encroach on the pool area, something there was. And then they moved it to the front. And did the ARPB approve? We did approve and send to the commission with the second story on the front.
Right. So
You weren't at
proceed.
the meeting, I don't think.
Right.
No, I
So
wasn't.
procedurally, we had our initial review where we rejected, the ARPB rejected the concept of the north side 2-story.
Right.
They went to the town commission. The town commission did not like the, I'm sorry. So then we had a special meeting with the ARPB with the elevation 2-story on the front elevation.
Right.
That was recommended for approval. That was sent to the commission. The commission reviewed that. And during the application, the architect walked up and showed a copy of the original application without the 2-story front elevation. And the commission said, well, that actually looks really nice. Why don't we talk a little bit about that? The resident, the homeowner was in the audience. There was a lot of discussion about maybe trying to accommodate this design that he preferred. We met between meetings and tried to adjust that setback on the 2-story as much as we could. And then the town commission had a special meeting where they approved what was on the slide, which is the 22.9 second floor and 18.3 first floor. Just maybe by way of discussion, can you go into presentation view? Okay, can you go down to the first slide is 3420 Gulfstream Road. So I dove into some of the houses that I used for the overlay district samples. Can you just kind of, no, that's perfect. So 3420 Gulfstream Road, which I think we have one of the neighbors here on the dais. So it is a 100-foot lot, 100-foot wide lot. If you look at the second floor FAR, it's 43, which is no longer allowed in the overlay district. So it's 1,600 square feet on the second floor. You can see the first floor setback. So they took the minimum, essentially the minimum setback, 15 feet on either side. So 30% of the lot width. And the second floor setbacks, you've got 25 feet, 6 inches on the left-hand side and 26 feet, 3 inches on the right-hand side. So that is your wedding cake. This is like your very typical what Marty Minor and Mr. Lyons were talking about in 2016 about what the homes would look like in town if that's what we were doing. So but that is again, the sort of the maximum size that you can get. They have their special exception for additional FAR. Their setbacks are minimum. There's, 43% is on the second story.
Trey, can I interrupt you?
And
So,
go ahead.
can you, thank you. In my view, that house looms over the house to the north. And that has 26, we're only proposing 25.
Yeah.
So something less. And now I don't know whether that first floor elevation is, and that's the other thing I failed to mention. Keep in mind, every time we look at these kinds of examples, the newer houses, particularly in the north end of the core, in the Ellis house, it's 9 feet above First Street.
I want to say that this resident has maybe a 3 or 4 foot tall retaining wall on the north side. So they are sitting much higher than the property next door to them.
So
In addition to,
so by definition, the house is going to certainly loom more over.
Yeah, sure.
correct.
And, in terms of light, the sunlight, I mean, you're going to, so it's a real issue. The FEMA's compounding the problem.
Absolutely.
So,
But that one meets all of our codes.
And it does it meets the codes in place at the time.
At the time.
So that house is in the overlay district, so it would not be allowed to have 43% on the second floor. It'd be only allowed 30%, right? So it was 50% previously, so they could have had more.
That's a third smaller in round numbers, 43 to 30. I mean, it's 1/3 smaller.
yeah.
And they did take the minimum setbacks essentially on the second floor, because again, you're looking at the width of the house. If you have 100-foot wide lot, 15 feet on one side, 15.3 on the other, it's 70 feet wide. 15% of that is 10.5 feet. So you're required to have a minimum of 15 plus 10.5, so 25.6 on the north side. I'm sorry, on the left has the minimum under the code as it is administered, 25.6, and then a hair more on the right side of 26.3. So again, just by way of example, what our code does. Can you go to the next slide now, Renee? So now we have 530 Old School Road, which is again, these are just homes that we were talking about when we were looking at the overlay district. So these are just newer construction in town. So the second floor area was 36%, but again, they did allow a special exception at that time. It's a 100-foot wide lot again, 100-foot wide lot again. So you are looking at your typical core lot size, 15 feet on either side, 28.2 on the left side, which is the ocean side, and then 25.6, which is again the minimum on the south side. So
What house is this again?
this is on Old School Road,
Dr.
Lewis.
Oh,
Dr. Lewis.
Yes.
On the market.
By the way, just as a footnote, could I see that? Yeah, thank you. When we approved that house, we didn't, I looked at the file.
There were no color renderings. Is
No
that?
color renderings.
Yes.
And so we approved the house based on sort of looking at that. But the problem was that it really didn't give you the detail. And now you look at it, I won't say anymore.
Again,
Well, it was also one of the early homes that really began to be stepped up, on the floor
Correct.
elevation. So it's up off the road too.
It is.
That's happening all the time now, but that was one of the early ones that had happened too.
So you can see based on this image that I took from, someone mentioned it was for sale. This is what I thought was a really good idea of what you're looking at with the minimum setback of 25.6 on that right-hand side. But you see how there's, the second story portion isn't just like a flat wall. It kind of juts in and out. So the reduction of that second floor is obviously making some sort of an impact. And again, this is typical of what you will see based on the lot size, lot width in the core. although they were granted a special exception for a little bit of additional square footage, which again, would not be permitted.
What's
in
the
overlay.
FAR on the second floor, please?
36%, which is just under 1,400 square feet. So
Okay, but not allowed currently.
it would not be. Now, that is not in the overlay,
Oh,
but
that's
but
right.
if
Okay,
but if
you're right.
in the overlay, it would be reduced. And then if you could just go to the next one, Renee. And I had previously at a meeting said that Rita Taylor had applied the two-story, the code section that we're looking at, consistent with how staff has applied it, and that is incorrect. The reading that Mr. Lyons has advocated for is how this code was administered previously. This is an example of a small percentage on the second floor, not necessarily centrally located on a typical 100-foot wide lot. I believe the Ellis property is larger, so that's why we're dealing with some issues where they have a very large property. The building width it's not 70 feet wide. It was because in part due to the fact that they are on a street, which is an increased side setback of 20 feet. So even though they have a 100-foot wide lot, they've got 15 feet minimum on one side, 20 minimum on the other side. So with a 63-foot, 10-inch wide lot, the minimum setback is achieved at 24 feet, 7 inches, which is the 15 feet plus your 15% of 6310. So it is a little bit closer than the other homes that we've looked at, but based on the width of the home, this is permitted. So again, it is not centrally located. It does allow for some variation in architectural design just based on where you're putting that massing on the property, and meets other than the new overlay district not allowing 32%. I mean, it's essentially kind of right there. And it did get a special exception for an extra about 200 square feet. So I just wanted to sort of correct my misstatement.
I cited earlier that house. And I was talking about the second story to the first story setback. I'm not sure it's 10 feet or 5 feet. Maybe it is. But I think that example is a good one, that this is what we would be approving. And I think it's okay, but it's still, if you raise that up by another
Right.
5, 6, 7 feet.
For the FEMA.
And, when you walk down Gulfstream Road, it's there. I mean, you can, and I mean, that's the other thing. My son was visiting and sitting in the back lawn and looking around, and all you see is sky. You don't see concrete roof tiles. And a lot of places as you walk through the core district. And by the way, I know I get us off subject, but one commissioner suggested that maybe we should have one-story houses in the overlay. And, let's not discuss it now, but, when we looked at the overlay, we decided not to do that. But, if we're going to be fighting this second story all the time, I'm not sure that we really want to limit it to 1 stories, but because it seems to be on the part of the commission, and I agree that we created this overlay, and we want to treat that maybe differently. And if we were ever to consider just 1-story homes in a specific area, maybe we could, but I only mentioned it because one of the commissioners suggested that. So, anything else?
No, I just wanted to go through how that provision with the requirement of side setbacks has applied recently to homes that you can actually drive by and see how that how the FEMA regulations for some of the homes are impacting. And with respect to what Mr. Lyons was saying earlier with the code sections that he read about the use and enjoyment of the neighboring properties, and how that impacts it, and whether we want to make adjustments into the code if it's not working or something like that.
So I say this is somebody mathematically minded, but it seems like less of a math problem and more of an impact problem to a certain extent. And one of those houses is neighboring me, but the elevation starts at 8, 9 feet and I'm at 3 feet. So even the first floor looms over us almost, I mean, it's almost a second floor if you were looking at two
Right.
elevations that were similar.
That's the 3420 house.
Mhm.
Yep, gotcha.
And so I wonder if there's more we could do around landscaping, window placement to kind of buffer and create more privacy for, you know, neighboring properties, and less sightline issues.
So I don't think they can complement each other. But the proximity of the building by itself, I mean, you can use landscaping. The problem is when you start using landscaping, I mean, you can look at two houses that were built by Seaside, one Green lives in, and both of them have this vegetation and it goes up God knows how high. And they're literally living in a box. I don't want to live in a box. So landscaping to me is, my wife always tells me not to use this, but I'll do it anyway. Putting lipstick on a pig. You know? I mean, I think that, you know, you're creating a different problem. And I do think that shading, light, just having the house open. And that's what I think makes the core district unique, is that you don't drive through and get a sense of just concrete all. So, but I don't disagree. Maybe, I think we have right now pretty good landscaping requirements that certainly would address the first floor. And we did increase back in 2016 up to 12 feet on the side. Landscaping.
Yeah, I said it's what.
The height of planning, right, would need to be at least 12 feet at planning and buffer a minimum of 40 feet of the side elevation.
And as it relates to the placement of windows, I think that's an architectural thing that when we're looking at plans, that we think it's something that would be appropriate in terms of privacy. I know that the house south of me, the former owner was going to build a house, a 2-story. And he was very conscious of where he put the windows. And so Patrick came over and showed me the plans. This is a courtesy. So I think, you know, we should be sensitive to that, but I don't think we need to necessarily put it into the code. So am I addressing your, or am I ignoring? I don't mean to, I certainly don't want to.
No, I think you're touching on it. I think we're playing with two different, the first house that we looked at for the Ellis residence, with it on the side, I think was challenging for the neighbors, but then when they moved it to the front, that's challenging for the neighborhood. And so you're trying to weigh where we're massing in a way that it works best for as many people as possible.
And so that's exactly right.
That's right.
The right balance that, and so I would make the argument that if it's in the front, the fact that we reduced it, the 50% from 70 and the overlay to 30%, the second floor. And with the side setbacks, the profile on the street is less. And I thought that example of what Ella showed initially was okay. I would rather not have, I'd rather not see the second story in the front of the house, but I don't have a solution except without pushing to the side. And so the only alternative is just don't let 1-story houses. But I think it, you know, the example of that house on Old School Road, I think it was a good example of how you reduce the second story and you do a variation on the walls. You know, it's, so I mean, I'll give you my bias. first and foremost, I think the enjoyment of the property by owner. I'd be extremely unhappy with the Ellis house next to me. I mean, more than unhappy, because I like light.
Well, they chose to do more of an, pardon me, an L-shaped house than a rectangular house, and that
Right.
made the problem because, they have that north wing in the front of the house. I think if they had just put a normal house in the front and it was 2 stories, it looked something like this, probably would have been more acceptable. But what happened, Paul, is that, they wrap it around
Right.
a pool with a pool house back there too.
Well, they
So
could have pushed it,
Yeah.
The front profile could have come, everything could have come in. It
And
just-
they could
I
have,
mean, and that's the other thing I said in one of these memorandums, that there's all kinds of options that we could have suggested to the homeowner. Well, yes, you still have to have the side back as it was written.
Mhm.
And while we can't do that, well, then put it on the first floor. No, I don't want to lose my grass. Okay, I want to throw my baseball with my grandson. I mean, which I appreciate. Then make the house smaller. That house went to 6,000 square feet, or 5,997, from 36 the Merrill's had. And again, we want to allow the resident to have the enjoyment, but it has to be in respect to the existing neighbors. So, I mean, I won't say anymore. You know what my view was.
so do we want to make some sort of proposal to more clearly define what we're thinking? Or is the
Well-
commission charged us to look at this, Trey?
Yeah, we're going to be making a recommendation. So before we go to some recommendation, is there any other additional work that you would like for us to do as staff or, I mean, I think in my mind, I've looked at this so many times over the years, I can't get, there's no more additional data that would help me, but do we know enough about the subject that we would be prepared to?
Right. And now, obviously I've been working with the chairman on this for a few weeks now, not just with the Ellis House, but also the conversations that were going before the town commission regarding section 73C regarding that second floor setback. So I didn't want to just dump it on the rest of the board without maybe some time to think about it. Like Mr. Lyon said, if you want staff to look at other applications or provide examples, make proposals, if you feel like you need more information, given the town commission's charge that they wanted some flexibility in architectural design, but also respecting the side setbacks and looking at the Canizaro house, the Cat Lady house, and how that is designed sort of differently, but does meet the code regarding the percentage setbacks as it was originally intended. I don't know if I have a solution that works better than the code as it exists now, if it's applied to the entire width of the house. That's kind of where I'm landing, having looked at a lot of this information. I was originally going to propose a minimum 2-story setback of 25 feet, which would be sort of based on those mathematical figures that Ms. Orthorn was mentioning about, your 15-foot front side setback minimum, and then plus another 10.5 feet for if you have a 70-foot wide house. So, average that to 25. And then if they want to have a 20-foot setback and a 5-foot difference between those walls, that would be okay and allow some different architectural design, but would still adhere to that minimum setback for the second story portion. So these are all things that that are potential, and I think that would serve the community well, but I just don't know what the consensus is from the board.
There's one other alternative. Because really at the end of the day, the elephant in the room is the size of the house. And if you want to build a house on that lot of, well, including the pool, it's 6,200 square feet. You really have to put it on the second story, otherwise you wouldn't have any lawn. And I've cited this at commission meetings in the past. in the village of Southampton, where I live, we have a core district. They don't call it that. And under that code, the FAR would be about 25% less, 30. So in other words, this house, you could do maybe 5,000 square feet, 48. And I know there's been opposition on part of the commission. And, you know, I understand the legal issues and all that. But I want to be sure we're comprehensive. That's one option to deal with this problem. But I'm not recommending we do that. So we're going to live with, frankly, oversized houses on these lots, in my opinion. Then we got to figure out how it works for the front elevation and the neighbors. And I think this is the best solution.
Well, why can't we reduce, let's, I mean, it's a bold thing to do, but why couldn't we slightly reduce the FAR for the whole building?
Well,
You raised an excellent point, that otherwise
and maybe we could.
You think there's some legal issues? I mean.
Well, I'm referencing traders.
Yeah, the legal.
All over me.
Yeah, the legal issues are when you exact zoning regulations that reduce the market value of the property, you're responsible for the reduction in value and any attorney's fees to sort of get there. So, you know, if you're looking at someone that can build.
Good answer.
Okay, all right. Okay, I won't go into any more.
That's enough.
No, and with the prices of the vacant land.
Yeah.
So much, it's just.
That's a very good example of
I just said. So, I mean, we sort of have to live with the circumstances we have. And, but Katie, I'm not sure that I really understood or I want to be sure that whatever we're doing, we're incorporating what you were thinking. And I'm not sure that, is there something, would you tweak it differently? I guess is my question.
It seems like the commission is asking us for more leniency with this section of the code. And I'm wondering if there's a way to balance that with also building in enough for us that we can say, well, we could do this on a case by case basis, but what does your landscaping look like? What do your windows look like? What do all of these other things look like as a part of the bigger whole?
Well, I hear you, but again, my response to that, and this is only my opinion, I'm just one person here, is that it doesn't address the absolute requirement that you're going to ensure sufficient light. The proximity of a house is going to be a problem, and losing light is really I had dinner with somebody from Vail, Colorado last night, and we were talking. I had a house that had a western exposure. We had great light, but there were long days because the sun wasn't up that long, and people living in East Vail, it was always dark, and the value of the properties were significantly less because it was always dark.
Right.
And I don't want to lose the light in my house. So there's just no other way to solve that problem. Because if you put very high landscaping, yeah, it gives you a barrier from looking at the house adjacent, but now you're looking as a wall of vegetation as opposed to getting light. So that's just my preference.
But I like Trey's idea of if it was an absolute number, and I think the town should have stuck with the absolute number, which they didn't do. They got close with the 22 point whatever, but if it was absolute and they stood by, which I think they could have, quite frankly, because it clearly is less than it should have been. In the new 30% rule, this is a little bit odd. It's a corner lot. But if we flip this house down to Marilyn Mayer's lot and the second story we're facing the golf course maintenance building, we probably would say, okay.
Yeah.
But where it is, that's to Katie's point. Aesthetically, we do need to consider where is it. And there's a neighbor to the north in a one-story house, and he's going to see this thing no matter what, no matter how much landscaping.
But by the way, the commission, I know has as much of a concern of that elevation on the south on a corner lot. They
Yeah.
don't, there's
They
no
don't
way
want
they
that at
would have
all.
approved.
They don't
this
want it on
wing,
the corner either.
On Banyan, do you think?
Or if they flip, yeah, what if they flipped it, just completely flipped it over and it was next to Cody and Ross, so to speak, then no, they wouldn't have approved it. I don't
No,
think.
because they don't want it
Massing.
on the street.
That'd be
They
massive.
want to put it on the side of the property to the neighbor.
Yeah.
But won't the 25 feet or whatever plus the 30% limitation on the second floor pretty well solve it? This is a bit of an unusual, this would only happen, Paul, pretty much on a corner lot. This would, I don't think you could fit that. That lot's wider than 100 feet on Polo, isn't it?
Correct.
And that's, most every other lot on Polo is 100 feet wide, isn't it? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and yes, and by the way, I would say, and correct me, Trey, if I'm wrong, there's more of a preoccupation of the front elevation in the overlay. So the houses on Polo looking west and the houses on Gulfstream looking east. Those all the way down to Golfview up to Old School. And I don't disagree because the houses across the street tend to be bigger lots and they're on coves and, and they just don't want all big buildings on both sides.
Right.
And so that's part of the reason why we reduced the size of second story.
We just did this in the last couple of years. Didn't we go from 50% to 30% just in the last year or two?
No, it was the last year.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, 50 to 30 was this year, yeah, for the overlay.
So,
Paul, even to your point about lighting, I think that changes based on whether it's an east-west house, is it north-south? Every lot is going to be a little, because I think light is also very important too. I mean, you want to have a garden or whatever you want to do, and you should be able to do that in your backyard.
Yeah.
But it's going to be different in different places.
But every house now in that entire block will have to adjust to this house's design for every other redevelopment. Because once you put in one for like the redevelopment, I know we talked about this at the ARPB when it came up, but like you have to, like the house next to it will then, once it gets sold and redeveloped, will have to adapt to the design and like throw massing on the other side to move away from the house that just got built, the house's house that just got built.
It would be impacted, yeah.
Not to switch topics, but
That's a very good point, by the way. I'm glad you brought that up.
one paragraph in Paul's memo from September 18th talks about like the neighbor objecting theme. Is there any like mandated requirement for neighborly feedback?
I mean, just because we provide notice as required under the code, so it's relevant for someone to have an opportunity to be heard. So I don't like that as well. I agree with Paul. I don't want the fact that there's no comment from the neighbors, I don't think should necessarily weigh at all. Because is
there a proactive, like, are we reaching out, were each of these neighbors reached out to proactively, or did we say, here's the information, like you are welcome to comment?
It's just under our code. We didn't actually call them and say, hey, this application's coming out,
Because what?
But we're the fiduciaries, and you pointed that out. That's what we are. We're supposed to be protecting the neighbor.
But no, sure. I also think like, and I don't know, like on like legally if they can get like anonymous, like in other words, like if you said on the ARPB, like rotating, everyone was responsible for a proactive reach out to the neighbor on the north, south, east, and west for a new development house to get anonymized feedback that they can then bring back so that you're not like calling out one specific neighbor.
Well, a lot of times we do get response from the notices.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
And sometimes they're not shy at all about it.
Exactly.
They'll
No.
come.
They'll come in, they'll come meet and look at the plans and so they do, but you're right. Somebody could be saying, I don't want to upset a new neighbor by making them think I'm ornery guy.
And when we do get comments from the public, so the nature of, it's a quasi judicial
Curtis
meeting.
wrote in about the house the first time.
He did.
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
like,
Curtis wrote
Yeah.
that in.
But can I ask a question? Had we improved this, the Ellis House, would it have been 25 feet instead of 22.9?
Yeah.
And so is 2 feet and a quarter, is that a significant change? I mean,
No, I mean,
It doesn't seem like
I
it to
mean,
me.
actually, with the illustrations that Trey presented, houses, the one I refer to as the cat lady, that's tolerable, but it allow that second story to come even further in when it's that much higher. I mean, I just think that that's a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my view, so. Why don't we do this? Trey, why don't you put together something, a draft of what we can look at the next meeting, and that gives us time to think further on this subject. Because I don't want to rush the decision. And maybe somebody will, in the interim, maybe we'll come up with some other approach.
Here's an idea, maybe a field trip. 4 or 5 of us in golf carts and let's go
Yeah.
3.
So,
I've wanted to do that, but
Field trip.
we can't do it because of code of ethics.
Oh, right.
You can have-
Sunshine law.
Yeah,
So
you could go with, Trey could take you.
One at a time.
One at a
Time,
time,
but,
right? That's,
But I mean, I've done it.
yeah.
since we're talking about, I can figure out how to make this work. We're not talking about an actual application that's before us. We are talking about a general concept of the neighborhood. So maybe if that, and we're not the final decision maker. So let me look at, some ethics opinions and see if we can do something, just because it's not like, so I was going to mention to Mr. Glenn, when we sit as the ARPB with an application, we're quasi judicial. So there are certain protections that are part of that. So the fact that if we were all riding around together and looking at a specific application, that's obviously that's outside the sunshine. But if we're talking about something that's maybe amorphous and we're making a recommendation to the town commission, the town commission is the one that's making that final decision. There may be some leeway. So let me look and see if that's something we'd be amenable to. Renee, do we have any applications for our December meeting?
We do not.
Okay, so I don't know if we wanted, if anyone has any feedback after this meeting, email me. We'll put something together. If we don't meet in December, meet in January, or you want to meet anyway just to talk about this topic?
Yeah, let's just, I
Okay.
don't want to kick it down the road either.
2 months from now.
I was thinking about Katie's thought about location. And again, my reference point is how I would be, how I see it, how would I be impacted? So if that house, the Ellis house, was on the north, obviously the north side is less light. But Susie was an artist and she always painted in the north light. She wouldn't have had any light. So, I mean, every time I think about, is there a way that we can deal with it, even in location? I'm not sure that that's addresses the issue. So you put together some language, and if anybody had some thoughts in the interim, share them with Trey, and Trey can send out
An overall memo that
this-
anything that we can, want to talk about. Because at this point, everything is on the table to try to manage these impacts. Obviously, we created an overlay district to address some of this to some extent, just as it relates to the core. But I'm talking to, a resident who is upset that she needs to put her generator on a 4-foot pad because her elevation is such that new FEMA maps have increased her finished floor by 2 feet. So whereas maybe last year she had to put it on a 24-inch pad, now she's got a 48-inch pad just to build a generator. And she's saying, then I have to screen this with landscaping. I mean, it's just crazy. It's going to be a mountain out there. So these are the kinds of things that we're dealing with new development. So I don't know if that's something that we want to consider. Maybe, I don't know. I was just thinking that what sort of relevance is the neighboring property? And I don't know if we could even codify that, the finished floor of the neighboring property as it relates to the proposed approval, and should that increase the effective setback for the 2-story, right? So if it's going to be 3 feet versus 9 feet, there's a 6-foot difference. Do we require them to have an additional, a foot setback on the 2-story for every 2 feet of difference, right? So then they go from minimum of 25 and we push it back a few more feet. So maybe they'd be more inclined to build toward the side that's more, on their level. But like I said, anything's kind of on the table, and it's just, these are the things that we think about when we're trying to go to sleep at night.
We will hear it when the Lewis house was built. We all heard about it a lot.
Yes.
We will with this one too, because when even that first floor goes in, it's even difficult to get the driveway up to it, and then they got steps from that up. I mean, we're going to hear it because it's going to look huge. I mean, it's going to be 9 feet and then another 25 feet. It's going to be big.
Unfortunately,
That's what the town, I guess, decided they didn't want. They didn't want that as much heavy massing on over the first floor, so they stuck it in the back.
Right, I mean, that was, and I understood that motivation. In one dimension, I agree. I'd rather not have it on the front elevation, but I don't want to do it at the expense of the second on the side. And then maybe just declaring a decision, no second stories. We can't do that. I think that's a mistake. So we're kind of, you go ahead.
What are other cities, counties doing? Because other places.
They're doing the things that we have already done. So that's where we are with the FAR, I mean, these are things that they are looking at our code to try to address, right, these things. So, which another reason to be super proud of our code, that we're way ahead of the curve, as it relates to those issues about privacy, impact on the neighbors. We already have our FAR, so that obviously artificially restricts what you can build. So when we were looking at this from an overlay perspective, all the things that they were going to suggest that we do, we've already done. FAR, 2-story setbacks, things like that.
Has anywhere done more around elevation than we've done yet?
Because this is evolving, I'll try to look at some other communities and see what they've done maybe within the last year or two.
What do you mean, elevation?
Like the difference in elevation between.
Right.
Is Ocean Ridge addressed it already? Or
I don't know. I mean, I can.
Delray's too late to the party. You have to ride through Delray and see that.
Look at Vista Del Mar. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Destroyed the town. And then the white boxes. Fortunately, we don't allow modern.
Right.
In the village of Southampton, what they do is they have basically as you go up, you have to come in.
Yeah.
So
we may talk about that because of this.
It really became so it's got a triangle. Our roof line was very long and steep, but in order to have a second story, we had to do it based on the size of the line. And that outcome, frankly, architecturally, I don't like at all. I mean, it worked for our house, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it here. But the concept was the same. As you got higher, we had to come in. So we just decided to come in on the second floor, and you got to.
Well, this is more extreme than most because it's nearly the lowest point in the town, just a little bit further north of that, and that's going to make it really. When your uncle and Jimmy built the house west of this house, he built it way up then.
Yeah.
But he landscaped the heck out of it, so you couldn't.
He was the first to go up.
He was the first to really think about that.
Yeah.
He was.
And that was at 6 feet. So so you're saying how that seemed like it was on a mountain, and now it's.
Okay, no other business. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the your
Happy
thoughts.
Thanksgiving, Renee. Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you.
Same, the meeting is closed. Thank you.
All right.
Let me correct
Greg?
that. Actually, it's 7, but still.
Oh, he's at
Yeah,
seven,
no,
okay.
but
So
you-
2 more
it's
feet.
pretty early on.